Well, hey guys, TexAgs Rewind. David Nuno, the happy jolly old host. Hey, and I said host, like I said, like with an L. And Nick Savage behind the glass. Hey, Nick. So should the show be more optimistic? Should it be more pessimistic? Or should it be just what I think? Or what we think?
I think we get plenty of pessimism on the YouTube chat during the shows.
Yeah.
But I think we do a good job of well, at least you do a good job of saying what you think, you know? Because if we're doing 4 days of we're the worst ever, then my goodness, how could we live?
Well, somebody texted the show and they want me to be like Mr. Rogers. And like every time there's a negative thing, you need to balance. I've challenged you to balance it with positive. No, bro, like I'm not keeping score here. I'm only keeping wins and losses that A&M does. Like the show is not about like, okay, now that your feelings are hurt, let me build you back up. And now that you're built up, let me bring you back down. No, I'm just going to tell you how I see it. It's not journalistic integrity. This is the way I see it. And let's talk about it together. And I'm, by the way, open to different ideas. I am. Let's go. Like, none of us know the answer. We're not in charge. We just have opinions, and we try to kind of work our way through it. Now that I've had that monologue, thank you, Nick, for joining us for a moment.
Of course.
Let's talk about what we have on the show. We did the Go Hour. I don't know if you've heard of the Go Hour. It's the first hour of the show. It's really good. Olin Buchanan, really funny guy. He was on the show. We talked about the Aggie offense. Charean Williams also on the program. I love when she talks about Aggies in the NFL, especially after a loss. I need some good things to talk about. Talk about balancing. Charean balances the show. The offense is a Ferrari in a school zone. What is that? Who said that? Remind me of that?
Jamie McCoy.
That is right. Oh, Jamie.
Great quote. Great way to put it.
Oh, I like that. A Ferrari in the school zone. I'm going to steal it and call it my own. And then we got to know a little bit of the Alabama Crimson Tide. All that and more. It's TexAgs Rewind. So I have this thing with my kids that I do that when sometimes I get too angry about stuff, let's say over time, I go to the opposite side. I go to the super nice dad because I try different techniques, right? And I'm just wondering, against Bama, the expectation is you're going to get smashed in the mouth. That's what Vegas is saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Completely change it. Play backyard football. Let Haynes run and just find the open guy. Just try it. And again, I'm just talking smack on the radio. I don't know what the heck I'm talking about, but I'm just saying try something from left field.
And you know what? Last year we've often talked about, we didn't see the win coming last year.
Yeah.
But last year, at least you had a pass rush.
Yeah.
That, you had guys on defense that were really playing at a high level, and you had the pass rush and all those things. And that's what really played a key role in winning that game, was keeping Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I think they sacked him 4 times and kept him kind of harried. And I don't see that as a factor this year. Maybe it will be in that game.
Yeah. And you know what? I guarantee they're thinking to themselves, if we just play the way we play when we practice, let's say, or then we will win. We can get to the quarterback. But they just haven't done it on a game day. So all we have to base on it is 5 games.
Yeah, and you didn't look good against, quite frankly, you didn't look that great against Sam Houston.
Yep.
But you thought, okay, that's the first game. And then App State said, well, maybe they overlooked them. And then they came back against Miami. You're like, okay, all right, they're getting something. Then we find out Miami might not be very good. Pulled one out against Arkansas. Maybe they were fortunate, maybe not. Maybe they got some breaks. Maybe they made their breaks, that kind of thing. But then that going to Mississippi State, that was just a gut punch.
It was a gut punch. And look, make no mistake about it, I want to go into Alabama and win. I want to go to Tuscaloosa and defeat Alabama. But you know what I also want, OB?
What?
I want hope coming out of that one. I want to be able, because was there hope after Arkansas? Yeah, there was hope. Was there hope after Miami? Yeah, there was hope. But I want to see a team that okay, they're blocking a little bit. Okay, we're throwing down the field. And look, Evan Stewart had a big game. Oh, look. I just want some hope to make me think, you know what, 9-3 is still possible. Give me some hope.
Yeah, I would like that. The problem is there's some other teams on your schedule that look like they might be getting better.
Yeah.
LSU, Ole Miss, right? So you're going to have to get a lot better. And Jimbo Fisher's teams typically do. But a lot of the reason some feel like A&M still might go 9-3 is because the second half of the season, the second half of the schedule is less challenging. But that's not what we want here. That's not what you're paying for. That's not what you've invested in, beating the bad teams.
Well, you got to beat the bad teams also and the good teams. But yes, I agree with you. And sometimes I don't want to cover up the mistakes. And you have a 9-3 season. Maybe you don't feel like you have to make huge changes. But it does a 9-3 season. Even if it's against inferior opponents, at least because you've already lost to inferior opponents, or at least one inferior opponent, right? So that you fix that. Plus, you sell hope to the recruits and the guys that are on campus right now.
Oh, you want to win every game you can. No doubt about that.
Well, there's really 4 this week, and it's some of the same 4 that we've had. I'm going to make Mike Evans, even though he had 2 touchdowns. Well, no, I'm going to make Josh Reynolds the honorable mention. 7 catches, 81 yards, and a touchdown because the Lions ended up losing that game. But he had an outstanding game. He's honorable mention. 3rd, I'll make Mike Evans. 8 catches, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns. Coming back from that suspension, played very, very well for the Buccaneers in that loss on Sunday night to the Chiefs. 2, we're going to go with Ryan Tannehill. 17-21, 137 yards. 2 touchdowns. The Titans really needed that game. They got it. I'm starting to think maybe they and the Jaguars, the 2 best teams in that division, and the Titans may be able to win that division if Ryan can keep from turning the ball over. And at number 1, I'm going to go with Donovan Wilson. We just talked about that Cowboys defense. A team leading 9 tackles, had a quarterback hit. I just think he's playing outstanding. It's just fantastic. Injuries have slowed him down at the start of his career, but I think we're starting to see now what we all saw at A&M, just with how good he is and how much he sets the tone on defense. Hard hitter, we all know that, but really just fitting in really well with that defense. So like what he's done, like what he did the other day, leading the team with 9 tackles. So he's going to be our number 1 Aggie in the NFL Player of the Week.
As it should be.
Saying, hey, let's go mano a mano. Our best Evan Stewart, the 5-star receiver, Moose Muhammad. Let's send them deep on a post or a fade and see if you guys are really about that life. We don't do it. It's like we're just looking to inch the chains along when we got so much talent. We got so much speed that we're not even taking advantage of. It's having a Ferrari, but you're just driving in the school zone. You taking the path down the city, just driving in the school zone. You're not even letting that thing rip on the highway or some back road. You're just taking all the little 20 to 40 mile an hour routes. And it's like, come on, what are we doing? Let's let the ball fly. Oh, it drives me crazy.
Jamie, I had a nice conversation with Donovan Green this weekend, and we talked about him last week. This guy, man, like, look, there's a lot of things we can nitpick at, but there are some good things out there, and I think he has been – we knew he was going to be really good, but I think he's figuring it out earlier than maybe some of the other guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he looks good. He's been doing good blocking. Did he get injured?
No.
Or did he just come out of the game for a little? I know he made a catch and got tackled or something and kind of limped off, so I didn't know if he was going to be out or not. But no, he looks the part. It's all about building his confidence, and a guy like that, you want to work him in early. Like first series, second series of the game, he should have 2 or 3 catches just so him and that quarterback are getting on the same page. And more importantly, the middle of that defense is knowing, hey, we got to pay attention to him. That opens it up for the outside guys. It all kind of works as a puzzle. But he's a guy that we absolutely need to get more involved, especially after losing Anais. Whichever quarterback is going to be back there needs a reliable weapon, and he's a big target. He's athletic. Let this guy help you out. Let this guy help move the chains and get us in a 2nd and 3rd and short, as opposed to these 7, 8, 9 yard third downs that we can't seem to stay on the field for.
And I came into this season thinking that Alabama was vulnerable. I still kind of think that. I'm not sold on the offensive line. I'm not sold on the wide receivers. I think the defense is really good, but maybe not as good as people told me before the season said. But I feel like everybody else maybe took a step back as well. Is that maybe a fair assessment that, yeah, maybe Alabama is not as good as we've seen in years past, but compared to everybody else, they're still number 1 or 2?
I think it's totally fair. And look, I mean, if you're judging Alabama relative to past Alabama teams, yeah, I have no problem saying that so far the team has not played up to my expectations, even though defensively, Alabama is really tops in the country in so many areas except turnovers caused. The defensive backs don't have an interception yet. With the only interception is by Will Anderson on a tip pass. So that's a bit of an issue. I will say Bryce Young has looked. Bryce Young is still Bryce Young. He's awesome. I mean, you can make the argument he's the best quarterback in Alabama history, but he's also been off on some of his deep passes, and I attribute that to a little bit last year. When you have a guy like Jamison Williams, you can say run as fast as you can, as far as you can, and I'm going to throw it right after I say hike it, and you're going to run under. And now Alabama doesn't have that kind of top end speed at the wide receiver position. And, these guys, I mean, Alabama lost Jamison and John Mechie, his 1 and 2 guys. This particular wide receiver and core is not like Waddle and Devontae Smith and Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy. I mean, we just don't have those guys on the team. And you're definitely fair in your assessment of the offensive line. Look, I think I was resigned to the fact Alabama was going to be a passing team, period, even if it's dink and dunk style instead of running, because the running blocking had not been great until the second half of the Arkansas game, especially the fourth quarter, where Alabama had 3 runs for over 70 yards in one quarter. And I've never seen Alabama do that before. And the run blocking was fantastic. And so it's a good time for them to be starting to have some chemistry.
So the offensive line is better than they were last year, in your opinion?
They're better than they were last year, but that's, again, relative to past Alabama lines, that's not saying a ton. I think they're a little better than they were last year, but again, it's not going to be a Joe Moore award-winning group.
So let's talk about the quarterback situation. I know Nick is not going to tell us much, just like Jimbo's not going to tell us. But you know how this team operates. What's your feel on the situation? If Bryce Young is ready to go, is he going to go? Or is it one of those, like that injury, you kind of feel like an A&M team that's down. Maybe you don't need to waste him in this opportunity to get him even more injured. You see what I'm saying? Like, what do you think the mindset is going into this one?
I feel like Bryce will play. I really do. Again, I'm trying to reach out to as many people as I can to find out for real. And so far, it's really rather nebulous. Nobody knows. But if Nick can play him, he will. Nick's not the kind of guy to take any opponent lightly, no matter who they are. If you go back and look at some of the games Alabama's played against FCS opponents, we'll have starters playing well into the third quarter when the game is out of hand. That's just the kind of coach he is. It's more of a pro-style type feel. He's not one to say, okay, we're up 28-0. Let's against Samford. Let's go ahead and put Jalen Milroe in there. No, he's going to wait till it's 45-0 in the middle of the third, and then potentially get him in there. So if Bryce can play, I think he'll play. Because here's the other thing: while Alabama is undefeated, they're number 1 in the country. All those things, they have. Just like what your observation was, they haven't looked like vintage Alabama necessarily. So the margin for error is rather small. So Alabama can't afford to take anybody lightly. They don't need any more games, even if they squeak by Texas A&M. I mean, look how much flack they took for squeaking by Texas in the burning hot sun at 11 o'clock kickoff at their place. So Alabama doesn't need to just sort of squeak by this game. If they can get a big win over Texas A&M, they need to do it. And the best way to do that is to have Bryce Young be your quarterback.
So let me ask you about that Texas game, because was that more Texas playing out of their mind, Alabama not playing well, Texas maybe being better than people thought, even though they had the loss to Tech? What was your takeaway from that particular one?
First of all, I went to that game too and had a blast, except for I nearly melted. I was about 16 feet from the sun. Yeah, I think part of it was a little bit of both of what you said. I got my buddy on Locked on Bama, my co-host, Jimmy Stein, has said something that has stuck with me. He said this years ago: every team plays their best a couple of times a year. They play their worst a couple of times a year, and everything in between is what you are. And I think Alabama played what I will believe to be and hope one of their worst games against Texas. They just weren't in sync. I talked to somebody who's on the field before the game, and they told me right before kickoff, they go, this team just doesn't feel like it's ready. There's no enthusiasm here. And so I was worried from the jump after that. And I think the offensive line played just very poorly in that game. There were some really questionable play calls, just a lot of issues. And meanwhile, Texas is still a Power 5 program with a lot of dudes on that team. I mean, Bijan Robinson's probably the best running back in the country. And they got some momentum. And once you give a team momentum that's got some really good players on the team, hey, look, it doesn't matter. Once it gets into the fourth quarter, it's just anybody's ball game. Luckily, Alabama was able to come out on top. But I do feel like that was a bad day for Alabama, and I'm hoping it's one of the worst of the year.
All right, I'm going to tell you guys once again, I know that many of you just watch this and don't feel like you need to participate in what we call interactions. So comment. Send me a hello, David. Nice striped shirt. And yes, I want to watch your up to the second college football show that has nothing to do with TexAgs, but it does. I need that from you. I also need from you to like, share, subscribe, in whatever order you need to do it. Nick, am I forgetting anything?
No, that's it. I mean, YouTube channel's been growing. Keep it up. Keep supporting us. We appreciate it.
Please do all the things I just said, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.